All right, lesson 3 is psychological stressors. So we're moving from physical stressors to that second category of the mind, will, and emotions, that soul. And we want to highlight what are some common psychological stressors, how to know if we should put any weight in what we're feeling. Are they important? Are they not? Are they true? Are they false? So I want to open this up with the idea of false moods. How do we identify a false mood? Once we can identify false moods, then we know, is this a stressor we need to be concerned about or not? And it really helps us to be able to turn stress to strength when we can recognize these false moods. The first type of false mood is a reactive or an acute set-off. Something triggers something, a response emotionally that is more of a reactive, very not logical set-off. That's a false mood. Number 2, oversensitive, something that was said or done or situational that is very moved you emotionally that really shouldn't have to the degree that it did. Of course, you have cycle-based for women. And then number 4, very self-degrading or always putting ourselves down or negatively thinking about who we are as a person. And then number 5, mountain out of molehill. So taking something that's really a small stressor in our lives and making it huge. These are 5 different types of false moods. When you know that your mood, how you're feeling, is not linked to reality. There's no situation you can pin it to. There's no real reason. You just feel depressed, or you feel anxious, or you feel angry, or irritable. Those are all false moods. When you tend to get mad for nothing, or you cry over a commercial, that's number 2, or, one time a month you just really want to blame your spouse for everything. That's number 3, example of. Number 4, you're just really always putting yourself down, thinking you can't quite measure up all the time. And number 5, making something that was not meant to be hurtful or offensive into this huge offense, or making something that's a small issue into something that's really this big, exponentially bigger issue. Another example of number 5, mountain out of a molehill, is like if something, like let's say you lost your dog and your dog has been with you for the last 10 years of your life. Sure, you're going to feel a little bit sad about that and feel the loss of that, companion. But after 3 or 4 or 6 months, you still haven't recovered from that and you still feel that loss just as strong and keen, then that's really making a little bit longer recovery emotionally than really the situation dictated, or small loss that you're grieving so long over, or even a real true heavy loss. Not that pets aren't important, but compared to people, if you lost your spouse or a child, those kind of losses they take so long to feel like you're even back to some sense of normacy. And if you're never able to recover from those to be able to function on a level that, you can maintain a job and have just a regular life, then the false mood of it is overwhelming you physically and impacting health. So the mountain of molehills are really, kind of a cliche way of saying you're not able to recover and be resilient through something that's a loss of any kind, whether it's real or not. So yeah, these are, and then in the moment, they're very real moods. We feel them. I'm not saying that we don't feel these emotional states. We feel angry, number 1. We feel irritated or annoyed, or number 2, we tear up, or we're sensitive or something. But it's not like that these emotions aren't real. It's just that the link to them underneath them is really not a true emotional state that we need to stay in. And they create some psychological stressors from a physiological standpoint and hormonal imbalance standpoint. So we want to make sure we identify the false moods. Those psychological stressors are the ones we want to make sure we can recognize really quickly and then have some strategies to overcome a false mood with truth. One way we can overcome false mood with truth, we're kind of going back to the physical element of it, but I want you to see the connection. So 4 main mental mood makers. We have the serotonin neurotransmitter, we have the catecholamines, we have GABA, and we have endorphins. It relieves serotonin, the dark cloud, the depression, the anxiety. The catecholamines relieve the blahs, or this low concentration, no motivation, no spark, no drive. The GABA, which is amino acid and a neurotransmitter, it helps to relieve this stressed out anxiety kind of panic attack feeling. And then the endorphins really help relieve that false mood of oversensitive, tears up easily, or sadness. Once we understand the types of chemicals that drive emotional physically and the amino acids that build them, then we can support them on the physical side while also recognizing the psychological, triggers and the actual false moods that are generated. So let's focus really quickly on specifically the false mood of being stressed out. Like, I can't take it, this is overwhelming. It's not that it's not linked to reality all the time, but a lot of times it's a mountain out of a molehill. So there's real stressors in life, real true grief, real true loss, real true anger, real true pain. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the times that we feel things in that intensity level that have nothing to do with really our circumstances. There's really no reason. Those are the ones we really want to eliminate. And this stressed out feeling is really a GABA deficiency. So it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Progesterone turns GABA on. So if we're low in progesterone, we're going to feel this GABA deficiency. Adrenal support's huge, and it's both a amino acid neurotransmitter, like we've said, and too much stress depletes GABA. Can help really prevent this stress response. GABA deficiency is key in PTSD, or a big piece of PTSD, and we have a very low coping with stress. So sometimes, when we work with clients, they say, I really shouldn't be bothered by these things. I really should be able to take on more in life. I should be able to volunteer with my kids' class and not feel like I'm overwhelmed. That chances are there's some GABA piece to this and the stressed out false mood that we can support and really help feel like we're turning stress to strength. So signs of it. PTSD is a big one. Low cortisol, low DHEA, adrenal support, long-term chronic stressors, infections is another big one. Even polio. Fatigue that's not relieved with rest. That could be a key one to overcoming this psychological, mood-based stressed state. What do you do about it? Well, from the nutrient standpoint, really the stressed out false mood, we would really want to work with GABA especially. Take 1 to 3 times a day or before stress, typically mid-afternoon or before bedtime away from meals. We can also use taurine and glycine, which are two other amino acids, and some adrenal support. So what are some practical tools we have in our tool belt to help with psychological stressors? Well, these 5 create a pretty good arsenal of options. If you've ever heard of deep breathing, there's some really great deep breathing routines online that you can find. We share some in our resource library with our clients that are enrolled in coaching, and it gives you a way to tap into your diaphragm and really open up the vagus nerve, activate that vagus nerve. That vagus nerve goes all the way from the brain to the heart to the gut, and it's kind of that brain-gut connection. So when you do deep breathing exercise, breathing in through your nose, holding it, exhaling through your mouth, you're actually activating your vagus nerve, which calms your whole stress response. Then we have relational boundaries. We'll talk a little bit more at the end of this lesson, but setting relational boundaries with people that drain your energy, with people that are very negative and critical, knowing when to reach out and be a friend and have an impact in their life, and when that's actually flipping and negatively impacting your health. Number 3 is limbic system retraining. There's a lot of really good resources online for limbic system. It's our emotional collection, I guess, of physical glands and messaging from our nervous system that helps kind of almost retrain our brain. Our brains are fantastically neuroplastic. They can create new signals. They can create new pathways. We can pretty much reprogram our thinking. And some of this limbic system retraining, there's some great Christian meditation type of apps we can do. There's worship and music. There's binaural beats, emotional freedom technique. There's a lot of different limbic system retrainings that we share with our clients as far as tools for overcoming some psychological stressors and false moods. Scheduled downtime, just keeping that rest in perspective with even just emotional rest and social rest and sensory rest we talked about in Module 2, just making sure we have enough scheduled, intentional time where our minds and emotions can be recharged. And then release channels, getting emotional stressors out is huge. So some release channels we'll talk about in just a minute as we wrap up in spiritual stressors, because emotional and spiritual are tied together. But is it a journal? Is it a friend? Is it a counselor? Is it music? Is it art? Is there a way that you can release your emotion into something that it's a channel that's healthy for you, instead of bottling up and keeping it in as an emotional, psychological stressor that your body keeps having to process? So hopefully those are important. You can do some more research or ask one of your coaches if you're part of the program, so that gives you a little bit more practical tools you can do, especially in high stress modes or when a psychological stressor is really getting the best of you.